Israel is not failing in their operations in Gaza because they're overwhelmed or they can't handle it or because they're failing as a military. It's intentional, it's by design. And the United States, hand in glove, is sponsoring it, supporting it, paying for it.
Welcome to another episode of the Olive Roots podcast. I'm your host, Chosi Ayub. Today we have someone very special. He's a retired special operations officer. I want you to welcome Anthony Aguilar. Anthony.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. It's a pleasure to share this time with you today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Where are you today?
So I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I arrived last night. Observed what is happening here. While I was actually on my flight from North Carolina to Minneapolis, was the process of Greg Bovino being fired and left Minneapolis along with a handful of ICE agents. There are still hundreds of ICE agents here. They haven't all left. And the demonstration last night was at the hotel that the ICE agents are basically staying at, as kind of a centralized headquarters that they're residing at while they're here conducting operations in Minneapolis. So that demonstration was there last night. And today, here in a few short hours, we'll be doing a press conference on Nicollet Street where Alex Pretty was killed. We'll be holding a press conference and vigil, and following that up with a mass demonstration, march, rally, and protest at 5, also in downtown Minneapolis. And I'm here with Greg Stoker, who many of you know, Abby Martin, who many of you know, myself, Colleen Rowley, who is a whistleblower, former FBI whistleblower, and Josie Gilbo, who all of you know. Unfortunately, she will not join us today for the press conference. She was arrested by police officers last night during the demonstration, simply for standing and video recording. They arrested about 25, 27 folks last night at that demonstration. So we're standing strong and continuing to be a voice for the truth of what's happening here in Minneapolis.
Wow, wow, wow. It's insane that this force that is supposed to be tackling illegal immigrant criminals turns out to start shooting American citizens.
Absolutely. And it is not a coincidence. It is not a failure of the system. This is the design of the system. This is the intent of the system. This is what it was designed to become, from the latest inceptions of funding, increased manning, rushing to recruit and throw people from various backgrounds, give them a gun, give them a badge, put them on the streets, no training, no empathy, no compassion. This is what you get. And it's by design. And that's what America really needs to wake up to, is that this is not a failure of the system. This is how the current administration designed the system.
Yeah, the system is broken, brother, and sounds like, to me, it's two wings on the same dragon. I don't even call it a bird anymore because the dragon is Satan. And I feel like the devil is really doing a number on America right now. And it feels like it's been escalating ever since 2020, right? Since the COVID and the shots and the jabs and stripping people out of their rights to pick what they want to do, escalating to today the influence of the Zionist entity on America. And I feel like America's starting to behave like the Zionist state. It wants to go to war with everybody. It wants to take more land. It's thinking about it can do that to Venezuela, wants to bomb Iran, wants to take Greenland, wants to take Canada. I don't care about Europe. And it's just behaving totally like the Zionist state. But before we get to all that, tell me a little bit about your identity. Where did you grow up? What's your ethnic background? And how did you join the army? So the stage is yours, brother.
Well, I'm very proud of my heritage. I have a Mexican heritage, and I don't use the word Hispanic or necessarily just Latino, although Latino would be accurate, but I am Mexican. And I say that because my father's side of my family, where they grew up in South Texas in Bexar County, which is in the southern edge of Texas, they've lived on the same land, on the same piece of property, generations and generations and generations and generations and generations back to the Plains Indians before Texas was a state, before Texas was part of the Union. My family didn't cross the border crossed my family, and they've been on that same piece of land for generations. And I'm proud to be from Texas. I'm proud to be from where we live, um, and a proud mixed minority background. My mother is Irish. My father is Mexican. They met in Texas. My father was in the Navy during Vietnam. He was a crewman on spy aircraft, the CP-3 Orion aircraft, a crewman, not a pilot, but a electronics crewman. And his last duty station was back in San Antonio, near where he grew up. And my mother was in the Air Force. She was an Air Force nurse. And her first duty assignment after her first term of service was in San Antonio at the large Air Force base. San Antonio is a very large military town. So they both met there, settled down there, and raised a family there. And that's where I'm from, born and raised, 18 years of my life, well, 17 years of my life before I joined the Army there in South Texas. And I'm very proud of my heritage, and I'm very proud that my heritage is American heritage. Whether I am Latino, Mexican, I'm an American. And I'm proud of immigrant culture. I'm proud of what immigrants bring to this nation. I'm proud of what our mixed cultures and ethnicities from various religions and backgrounds and races and cultures bring to this country, because I've also traveled the world. I have been to places in the world, from Hollywood to Bollywood, from penguins to polar bears, everywhere in between. I've been there and I've seen it. And I truly respect and cherish the culture and the dignity of cultures and the identity of people, because it makes us who we are. And in this country, that is something that's very valuable in our nation in bringing us together. And so I'm very proud of my ethnic background. I was raised Roman Catholic in a very Roman Catholic family. When I married, my wife is Presbyterian, so we now attend a Presbyterian church, and I am a deacon at our Presbyterian church. But I was very much raised through the Catholic rites of faith through my young adult life until I got married, and my faith has always been a very strong guiding principle in my life, morally, ethically, and in my worldview, and not necessarily to the specific dogma of religion, but in a faith, in that we all have value. We all bring beauty to the world. We all matter. Whether you're a Palestinian in Gaza, or you're a Mexican in Southern California, or you're a Venezuelan in Caracas, or wherever you may be, we all have inherent value. And I draw that from faith and religion, and that's something that I've always held in high regard. And I think it's important. I think it's also important that in understanding religion and faith, that we realize that um, we we all have a special place in this world, and there is no room for racism and bigotry and hate covered in the sheath of religion, like Zionism or Christian Zionism, um, and the like. Let's not forget that in the 1930s and the 1940s, when Adolf Hitler grasped power, he did so through a religious cloak. The view of the Third Reich, as we all know it, wasn't just something that sounded good. His vision of this religious kingdom was from the First Reich being the Roman Empire, the Second Reich being the Holy Roman Empire and the land obtained under Charlemagne. And he saw his rightful place in the world as the Third Reich, to reconsolidate the lands of Charlemagne in what he called the Lebensraum, or the living space for the Germans in Central Europe, which obviously led to the extermination of the Jews, the Gypsies, and others that weren't inherently native or ethnic German. And that's what we're seeing with Zionism. That's what we're seeing with Christian Zionism, with Zionism. So when I see things from a religious perspective and this pitting this as Islam versus Judaism or anti-Semitism because you speak out against a genocide, it's a perversion of religion. It's a perversion of faith. And it's something that the world needs to wake up to and realize that speaking out against a genocide and standing up to free the oppressed and standing up for those that are oppressed under the yoke of oppression and the chains of oppression, that doesn't make you an anti-Semite. That makes you a human being.
I agree, man. I mean, we're all created in the image of God. And it's funny that that term, anti Semitism, is thrown out and it lost its flavor because how do you determine who's a Semite? For example, I'm a Semite, all right? Sem- Semite means somebody who is from the lineage of Shem, son of Noah. So, how is the Ashkenazi Jew that is white, blonde hair, blue eyes from Shem when Ashkenaz is from Gomer and Gomer is the son of Japheth? So, they're Japhethites. So, they try to take that term and make it work towards them, the Zionists, and they're using Jews to further their agenda as well as Christians, obviously. I mean, Zionism comes in every faith. There's Muslim Zionist, Christian Zionist, Jewish, Hindu, all that. So, so tell me a little bit about you joining the army. What led you into joining the army, and how long did you serve in it?
Well, before I move on to that, I just wanted to highlight what you just said and the poignant way that you described it and explained it, because it's one of the best ways that I've ever heard it described, very simply and direct in terms of the lineage and the language that's used. That people need to be educated, informed, and aware of exactly what you just explained. And this co-opting of the term anti-Semite by Zionists to mean, oh, well, you're anti-Jew is not accurate. It's not historically accurate, it's not biblically accurate, and it's not contextually accurate. And the way you just described it, I think everybody listening, take that in because you described it perfectly. So the military for me, as I said, I grew up in a military family. I would say my mother served, my father served, my uncles on both sides in various degrees, and aunts and uncles both had served into a capacity. And I really felt the calling to serve because I truly felt that serving in the armed forces of the United States meant something. I felt that it truly did mean standing up for the Constitution, defending the Constitution, defending our rights against enemies, foreign and domestic. I truly believe that. And as an American boy growing up in South Texas, with the you dream of the sky's the limit. What am I going to do for college? What am I going to make of myself? What am I going to do? I joined at 17, and then I did a delayed early entry program and joined as a junior, went to basic training, came back, finished my senior year in high school, and then was recruited and accepted. They don't come begging, but you do have to be recruited. And then I was accepted to go to West Point. So I attended West Point for my commission into becoming an officer, and then continued to serve for over 2 more decades. So um, and somewhere along the way, I began to realize that what I thought in ideology and the ideal sense of service was not what I was a part of, and it tore at me, and it brought me to face a lot of things towards the end of my career, which ultimately led to my decision to leave the military. In terms of rank and progression, I was on the path up, I guess they would say, but it my morality and my ethics and that cognitive dissonance between my reality and my beliefs is not something that I could come to grips with anymore in terms of the duality of it. And um, I I retired from the service. I was and while in the service, I was a special forces Green Beret. So in special operations, we are specifically selected, trained, educated, and employed to conduct counterinsurgency, insurgency operations, sabotage, subversion, um, political warfare, psychological warfare, information warfare around the world, um, beneath the threshold of war, during war, a whole range of options as a Green Beret in terms of how we operate around the world. And I did enjoy it. I learned a lot, met a lot of people, wonderful people around the world. I've been deployed to combat in Northeast Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, the Republic of the Philippines in the fight against the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, Jordan, Yemen, Somalia. So I've seen a lot of the world, and I realized that a a world at endless war, a nation fighting endless war, is not sustainable. It's not in line with Christian values, my values, and it's only going to lead to our destruction and downfall. And the elite that promulgate these wars through the military-industrial complex and this Zionist, racist, nationalistic view of the world that puts them above all, we're all victims, and we will all suffer, all of us, if we don't do something about it.
I agree. Silence is complicity, just like your shirt says, right? It's interesting because, my cousins served in the Marines. They're Palestinian Americans, both of them. They're brothers. And they're both were sent to Iraq, Desert Storm. And they're saying we're fighting for our country, America, the United States of America. So they go there. Since they speak Arabic, they get used in different ways, all right? Intelligence and whatnot. So both of them were Marines. And they go there, and my oldest cousin served for 8 years. The other one served for 3, got injured in a tank, and had to come back to the US. All his friends died in that tank except for him. And the other one served, and he said after 3 years of being, I think, there, he's like, what am I doing here? I want to fight for my country, but why am I there? Am I really fighting for my country? Because I'm doing stuff that I didn't think I would be doing. And it really drove him nuts, and he came here with PTSD. He's seen and done stuff that he'd never want to talk about. And eventually, the other one also dealt with something like that, but eventually met a good woman here, and I don't know what she did, but he's back to normal. She healed him in a way that no doctor was able to do. But the other one is struggling. So I know a lot of people that served, and when I asked them, I was like, so what do you think about serving? He's like, I wanted to serve my nation, my country, but I don't know why we went there. And I hear that a lot. He's like, in the beginning, I was like, yeah, I'm defending my country, democracy, freedom, for the flag, for this nation, for my people, for my neighbors, for my friends, for my relatives, for my children. And then after a while, he's like, I'm causing more harm than good. I'm breaking other families. I'm not bringing democracy. I'm ruining democracy for other nations. I would want to fight for America here. If the violence comes here, then I want to defend my country, yes. But I feel like me being in another country over there, way across the oceans, I don't think I'm doing the right thing based on my faith. That's what my cousin said, based on my faith, my beliefs, and my humanity. So it's interesting that I can draw parallels there between you and him. So tell me about your trip to Gaza. So you were handpicked to go to Gaza on an operation. Tell me a little bit about that experience, and also tell me, how much did you know about Palestine, Gaza, and the Zionist regime before you went there, and how much did you learn when you got back to the US?
You know, I knew of Palestine and its existence and recognized it as such, not only in growing up in religion, the Bibles that I always saw, and if you flip to the back of the Bible and it shows you the land, it was Palestine. I never knew it to be anything different until after 1948 and the creation of the Israeli state. But Palestine existed and does exist and is an entity. I also, I think people can go back and watch this, but if you go back and watch the original Indiana Jones movies, have you seen those? In the beginning when the plane's flying and it's stopping, where does it stop? Or what does it stop over in? Palestine. It's named that on the map in Indiana Jones in the original movie, Palestine. So this lie of Palestine doesn't exist or never existed or isn't a thing is horrid and hateful. But I I knew of the land, I knew of the people, I knew of the existence of the conflict, obviously. I did not know, appreciate, and understand the depth of the culture and the richness of the culture of the Palestinian people and their history, and how really we're all Palestinian, all of us. And I don't mean that from like a bloodline perspective, but I mean that in the sense of culture and beauty and all of the values that we share, and that the 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 society and the culture. It's a beautiful culture. And um, so back to the how I ended up in Gaza. I retired from the army in March of 2025. So I haven't even been out a year yet. I just fresh retirement, so to speak. I haven't even knocked the dust off of my boots. I had no intention of becoming a military contractor or a paramilitary contractor, or quite frankly, I had no intention of doing another career or working for the man, so to speak. I really wanted to just focus on being a father, a husband, enjoying life, 25 years of life that I missed from being gone all the time, recover mentally, emotionally, and physically, and enjoy the rest of my life. And I took on a job at Lowe's Home and Garden, part-time job in the outdoor garden center, because it allowed early hours prior to opening, part-time during the week, so I could go in, 4 in the morning, open up, water the plants, watch the birds fly around, quiet, and just ground myself. And I enjoyed it. I just really wanted to get back to um, relearning who I was as a person, reflecting on all the things that I had done in the last 25 years at war, the questions that I had in my mind about why did we fight in Iraq? Why were we in Afghanistan? What what is the truth? Because what I saw does not match what I've been told. So coming to grips with a lot of that. And then May 13th, 2025, I received a phone call from a North Carolina phone number, and I live in North Carolina, and the phone number was the same area code as I was. So when I saw the number, I didn't recognize the number, but I didn't think it was spam or some robocall, because I have a Texas phone number, because that's where I'm from, and that's the number I kept. But it was a 919 number, so I thought maybe it was school, a local, the trash man. I don't know. So I answered it, and it was a recruiter from UG Solutions, which was the company contracted by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to provide armed security. And they said, "Hey, we're with UG Solutions. We're putting together a contract team to go to Gaza to secure aid into delivery into Gaza. And we specifically are looking for special operations, recent retirees, or recently out of the military that have that background. And you were recommended from one of our previous hires. Would you like to go?" And this was Tuesday, the 13th of May. And I said, "Oh, that's a tall order. Let me think about it. How much time do I have?" And they said, "Well, you need to let us know by tomorrow morning because we're on a plane Friday." Everything inside me told me no. Everything inside me said, "This ain't your fight. You've done enough." And when they called me back the next morning, I had every intention of saying no. And as I stood there and he called me, I said yes. And I felt like I had an out of body experience looking at myself on the phone saying, "Why did you say yes?" Knowing knowing that it was a monumental undertaking that was poorly planned, poorly coordinated, rushed to execute. But what I felt was that people in Gaza, Palestinians, are starving, dying. No food is going in, completely shut out. And if the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, backed by the United States, a nation and values that I believe in, is going to be the mechanism to deliver food and aid to people that are starving and dying, well, I want to help. And I can help in doing that. So I said yes. And 2 days later, I was on a plane and I ended up in Israel. And by that weekend, I was in Gaza
Wow. So everything happened quickly.
very quickly.
Okay, so you get on a plane, you get to Tel Aviv, obviously Ben Gurion, and then you guys get in a bus or a car all the way to Rafah border, or where exactly?
So upon our first day of arrival, we were held up at the airport and Ben Gurion for about 6 hours because the company in our arrival didn't coordinate with Israeli customs for us to come through in an organized fashion. So we all had to wait in line and individually apply for an e-visa. And because there was no prior coordination made for us to have a visa under a working visa or a government partnership visa, we all had to simply apply for a $25 90-day tourist visa. We were all in Israel, operating in Gaza, with machine guns, pistols, stun grenades, riot batons, tear gas, armored trucks, machine guns, and mortars and bombs on a tourist visa. So once we got through in processing, it was late. They put us on buses and they drove us to Ashdod and Ashkelon and separated us into groups and dispersed us into available hotels. And then the next day, they consolidated us all again to get a briefing. But on the way to, there's Tel Aviv, Ashdod, Ashkelon along the coast. So when they picked us up to consolidate us, down to Ashkelon or just outside of Ashkelon to get this briefing, they drove us further east, towards around the northern point of Gaza, through Erez, Beit Hanun, and they took us to Sterdot. Sterdot is an overlook that if you're standing on top of the viewpoint, the tell of Sderot, you can see all of Gaza. On a clear day, you can see pretty much all of Gaza in the far distance, the Egyptian border to the Mediterranean. You can see it all. And the Israelis specifically picked this point and they made it a tourist attraction with vending machines, a picnic area, the big binoculars you would see on the Empire State Building where you can put a shekel in and look through them to see a view of inside of Gaza. A photo opportunity area is a panoramic photo. And if you're lucky, you can be there when they're doing bombing and you can stand there and watch it. And this is a tourist attraction where Israelis would go to watch Palestinians be starved and killed and suffer and die and celebrate it. And they took us there to this spot. And as we got out and we were standing there, I was like, is this real? What is this? And the Israeli officer, a lieutenant colonel in the coordinating office of the governance activities of the territories, an organization called Kogat, under the Israeli Defense Ministry, who was our chaperone, standing, in front of us and talking, and to his back is Gaza. And he tells us, he was like, this is where you're going to be operating. We're going to be operating in the south. And as we continue our military operations, you can see Rafah is gone. We're fighting in central. The north is cut off, and soon this will all be under our control. And I was like, excuse me? Like, I thought, did I not get the memo? I thought we were here to provide humanitarian aid and feed Palestinians because you're supposedly fighting a moral war and we're supposed to be protecting the population. What do you mean it's all going to be under your control? So the veil was lifted almost immediately in terms of the true intention. So then the following day, we were driven down to Karim Shalom on the Egypt-Israel-Gaza border. And a select few of us were taken by the Israeli Defense Forces, by some of the leadership, into Gaza to do a reconnaissance of the distribution sites. And first time driving into Gaza, into the thick of it, not on the outskirts, not along the border, not along the corridors of the military road, into Gaza. I have seen war. I have seen a lot of war. I have fought through Iraq. I have fought through Afghanistan. I have fought through Northeast Syria and around the world. And nothing of what I've seen in my career, and I've seen a lot, prepared me for what I saw when we crossed over the berm and crossed through the gates of the Karam Shalom, and I saw Rafah leveled to the ground. Every building leveled to the ground. Gone. A once bustling city of culture and hundreds of thousands of people gone. And as we drove down the Philadelphia corridor, which is the road that borders Egypt, and we drove to the site, to the first site, which is in Tel Al Sultan, you could see just the complete destruction as far as the eye could see. And then we went to site number 2. And driving from site number 1 to site number 2, you could see further along the coastline, as far as the eye could see, destruction. And then we drove to site number 3. And in order to get to site number 3, you couldn't go around Rafah like we did for 1 and 2. You had to go through it. And the Israelis were still bulldozing and plowing out Rafah from recent bombing and destruction to make paths to get through the rubble for us to bring aid trucks to site number 3. And as we're driving through it, and I have this on video, I have pictures of it as we're driving through, rubble is as high as mountains, buildings still on fire, buildings still smoking, rubble still crumbling, bombs still in the background. You can feel the thud of 2,000-pound bombs in the distance. And as you're driving through the rumble, every few minutes we had to stop so the bulldozers in front could plow more ahead. And as you stop and in the silence, you can hear voices crying out from the rubble. Human beings trapped, who when those bombs dropped on their homes or their apartments or the buildings that they were in, they weren't evacuated. They weren't Hamas. They weren't the enemy. Children, mothers, fathers, grandfathers, families, dead or dying beneath the rubble. And over the days of going back and forth to these sites, those voices became more and more faint. And you knew that they died in misery and in pain. And when you think of that level of depravity and evil and inhumanity, to where the military operations being conducted are designed for that purpose, it really haunts you and makes you think that humans are capable of this. But what really set me apart from being unable to tolerate it, not only for what Israel is doing, but for what the US complicity in it was. And it became very clear to me very quickly that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was established as a means to use food, the promise of food, as bait to a starving and suffering population, to forcefully displace them from their homes, and an opportunity arises to kill them. And that was the intent of this humanitarian aid. And that's not speculation. That's a fact, because I saw the military operational plans. I saw the intentional building of these distribution sites in the middle of active combat zones, and the intentional drawing and displacement of Palestinians from their homes to get food. And when they came to these sites to get food, their homes were then bombed and they had nowhere else to go back to. Not a lot of people realize that the aid that was set up was inadequate to feed even a quarter of the population. And it was the promise, the evil promise, the bait of food to a starving population to come and get it. And when they did, everything they left behind was destroyed. So Palestinians were then put in the position, do I starve to death or do I go get food? Not knowing that if they did, there's nothing to go back to. And that's how it happened, phase by phase by phase, until central Gaza was cleared out to the south. And then in August 25th, they started doing it in the north, in Gaza City. So it's not just about the dropping of bombs. It's not just about the firing of machine guns. It's not just about drones. Starvation and food is being used as a weapon. The intentional spreading of disease by denying vaccinations, the weaponization of biological warfare. And it's all intentional. Israel is not failing in their operations in Gaza because they're overwhelmed or they can't handle it or because they're failing as a military. It's intentional. It's by design. And the United States hand in glove, is sponsoring it, supporting it, paying for it.
Wow. Man. So let's go back to where you got to that view where you see the destruction of Gaza from the mountain. You were with a group of other American soldiers. How did they react? Were some of them already brainwashed that, yeah, we're stand for Israel? Or were some of them like you looking like, wow, man, do you see this? Like, tell me a little bit about the reaction of fellow servicemen.
So at the time, I was not a soldier, and none of us were soldiers anymore. We were all out of the military. None of us were military. And there was a wide range of backgrounds from law enforcement to no military experience at all to 20 years of military experience to 4 years of military experience to um, varying degrees of experience. But it became apparent to me on that day on the Mount of Sderot what the common denominator was. And as we stood there, remember this was in May, so it's hot. You know, guys are in shorts and muscle shirts. Um, and as we're standing there looking, I'm just kind of looking around, and I kind of get my first look at the group of us outside, and I'm kind of observing and looking around, and I see that a large number, far too many to be a coincidence, all have the same tattoo, a crusader tattoo of a crusader shield with a crusader cross emblazoned over the top with the word infidel and emblazoned on the bottom with 1095, which, if anyone knows, 1095 was the year that Pope Urban Edict gave the sanctioning of the first crusades, with the edict to wipe the vermin scum of Muslims off the earth and reclaim the Holy Land. And they brandished this on their bodies. And I was like, what? Why does everybody have this tattoo? Did I miss the tattoo station? Like, was there what is this? Oh, you're not in a chapter? What do you mean I'm not in a chapter? A chapter of what? The club. I was like, I don't, what do you mean? The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation specifically and intentionally hired the Infidels Motorcycle Club to fill the contract for armed security. The individual in charge of the entire armed security contract in Gaza was the national president of the Infidels Motorcycle Club, who is a Zionist, who on his own personal web pages on Instagram and social media say that Israel is the true nation and one day will arise above all. And this is an American. And he hired and put in position all of his club mates. Now, the reason that's a concern is because the Infidels Motorcycle Club, their charter as a club, they exist as a motorcycle club, an organized organization, an LLC, organized in the United States with chapters in every state, presidents and staff, and a national president. And their charter is patriots who fight global jihad and pursue the elimination of Muslims from the earth. And this is the organization that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, led by a Christian Zionist, specifically hired to be the ones to go into Gaza armed to the teeth to deliver aid to starving Palestinians, the majority of which are Arab, and the majority of which, but not all, are Muslim. And it's almost hard to believe that that would even be a reality. But that's the reality. So the majority of the rest of the contractors that were there saw this job, saw this opportunity as their calling, a pilgrimage, a crusade to the Holy Land, the highest of calling. Go to the Holy Land, go into Gaza and kill or be a part of killing Palestinians. It was a dream come true. And a lot of them after their first or second day in Gaza, would then travel to the West Bank to Jerusalem to get a Crusader cross tattooed on their body, in addition to their motorcycle tattoo. And it became clear to me that there was a much deeper purpose going on here in terms of why this specific company was hired, why this specific contract was being executed. And it was not to deliver humanitarian aid or feed Palestinians. It was designed to dehumanize and kill them directly and indirectly. So, to answer your question, not all, but the vast majority of the contractors that were there that were specifically hired had that mindset. As a side note, what's scary, a lot of those same contractors, infidels, who see themselves as modern day crusaders, and anyone that doesn't believe what they believe as vermin to be eradicated from the earth. When that contract had ended in August, that first 90-day contract, a lot of them took jobs back in the United States with an organization called ICE.
Wow, the connection. This is a lot to process, man. I knew some details. I just didn't know all this, and I'm sure the audience is new to this information. So, is that there was a clip that was recorded by someone of one of those people shooting at the Palestinians,
I
and
recorded that.
that was your recording. And I will play it right here when I edit this video.
TikTok south from Convoy over. The what?
So you shoot it. Some guy sounds like a redneck. Yeah, I think I got me one of them. Woohoo! So when you filmed that, were they aware that you were filming? Were you filming because you're like, man, I gotta have a record of this and some receipts? Like, tell me about that situation.
So we began operations on the 26th of May. The day of that video was on the 29th of May. So we had not been operating for very long. On the 26th of May, at distribution site number 1, 34,000 starving Palestinians were released by the IDF at once into a massive crowd, intentionally designed to create chaos, confusion, stampede. I wasn't filming that day because that wasn't my job. That's not what I was there to do. But after that day, I told myself, I think I need to capture some of this. So on the next day, on the 28th of May, is when I witnessed the young boy Amir that was killed. I was filming that day. And then on the 29th of May, at distribution site number 4, which was up near the Netzarim corridor, right on the Salah ad-Din Road, where the Salah ad-Din Road and Wadi Gaza connect, there's a bridge. That is where site number 4 was. The only way to access it wasn't from the north. No one from Gaza City could cross. The only people that could access it were those cut off in the northern part of Beret. So 29 May, we're at distribution site number 4. As the Palestinians that were there had gathered up the rest of the food, remnants of food, scraps of food, everything they could get, breaking down the cardboard boxes to use as fire starter, as fuel, breaking down the wooden pallets to have wood for fuel, or to have wood for some type of construction purposes for their tarps and their tents. As the Palestinians were leaving site number 4, no threat, no apparent reason other than to show force or dominance, the lead contractor on that site, who you can hear in the video, you can clearly hear him say, "Yep, I'm calling up a tank as a show of force. I don't want this to be too aggressive."
Hey, got an IDF tank posted on the northwest corner now. I brought him in and talked to him. Let's do a show of force.
That's a good idea.
They could if we wanted it to, but I told them to hold there. I don't want this to be too aggressive.
Yeah. Why do you need to bring up and call forward an Israeli Markava tank to show aggression, little as it may be, to a disparate group of starving, unarmed, elderly and children, starving, unarmed Palestinians, most of which didn't even have shoes? Why? Why do you need to do that? And when he did that, and this tank comes into position, the IDF start firing from their coaxial machine gun, which is mounted on the tank, out into the crowd, like sport. And I was further back on inside of the site. The sites were surrounded by these 20-foot berms. We weren't allowed to leave the site. We could go on top of the berm, but we couldn't go out beyond it. And I was down on level on the ground because I had closed one of the gates inside, and I was walking back towards the main gate. And the machine gun starts firing, and then a U.S. contractor, an American, standing on top of the berm, unloads with an entire magazine, 30 rounds of ammunition, an entire magazine. For anyone that's in the military or has ever fired an assault rifle, you would call that a mag dump. And he's firing out into the crowd of Palestinians that are walking away. Not armed, not a threat, not crowding, not protesting, not demonstrating, just peacefully walking away. Some faster than others because some are old and some are young and most don't have shoes and most are hungry and starving. And you hear it in the video very clear. Woohoo! And then you hear another contractor standing about 10 feet in front of me, holler back to him, "Damn, I think you got one." And then the contractor that was shooting responds, and you can also hear it in the video, "Hell yeah, boy." What they were talking about was a human being. I got one. You got one. Was a Palestinian. It's evil. It's dehumanizing. It's depravity. And quite frankly, it escapes me to this day how a human being could treat another human being that way. Not against violence or crime or a threat. We weren't under threat. We weren't under duress. We weren't in any way being harmed or threatened to be harmed. All the Palestinians on that site had already left. The gates were closed. The Palestinians that had been walking away were doing so under the burden of carrying large, sacks of whatever food they could gather because they couldn't have carts or vehicles. And this individual found it not only okay, but enjoyable to shoot at an unarmed human being who simply was trying to get food. And the IDF did it with just as much joy. And another data point for me in that what's happening, this genocide, this calculated mass murder of a population, is not because the Israeli forces are overwhelmed or lack the ability to handle it or aren't very good at fighting urban warfare. No. It's by design and it's intentional. So I witnessed things like that day after day after day, and to the point when I still believed that we, the United States, we, UG Solutions, we, the GHF, were still there to do good, contending with the evil of the IDF and trying to balance feeding a starving population and dealing with a vicious, unethical, immoral army. But on January 10th, it became very clear to me that that was not the case. That I witnessed an Israeli officer threaten to shoot children young children off of a berm with snipers. And when we de-escalated that situation in the operations center, I was then told by the operations director, the guy above me, stepped me outside and he said, never say no to the client. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean no, don't say no to the client? We work for the IDF. They are our client. And it became very clear to me that everything that we were doing and everything that the IDF were doing, it wasn't a balance of trying to do good against immorality. We were a part of it. We were a part of it, and the people in charge knew that we were a part of it. And the design of limited food. Just imagine, in all of the aid that we delivered no water. No water. That wasn't an accident, wasn't a lack of capacity, it was intentional. And it became very clear to me in that moment that the United States, through US taxpayers' dollars funded through the State Department and $30 million paid to the GHF, was not spent on food, was not spent on water. It was spent on ammunition, torture, Palantir, biometrics. Wasn't humanitarian aid. It was an element of the genocide. And quite frankly, quite honestly, a testing ground for what we're seeing here in the United States.
So you get those demonic cult, come back to the US, join ICE, doing the same tactics that the ITF, as I call them, are doing over there to the Palestinians. Now we're seeing ICE pretty much doing the same things here to Americans in the name of immigration, right? So now you're back to the US after that experience in Gaza, trying to do good among demons. What happens next?
So, well, after I resigned, I resigned, tendered my resignation, and told them, I'll stay for one more day to make sure that, the maps, the plans, the convoys, all the things that I've been planning were handed over to someone that was going to take over my role. And then the war between Iran and Israel began, and I was stuck. We were all stuck. Airport was closed, borders were closed, so I was stuck. And I was stuck in Beersheba, where we were attacked or received rocket fire, ballistic missiles every day. And then eventually I was able to leave through the West Bank, through Jericho, crossing the Jordanian border on foot, getting a taxi to Amman and flying out of Amman. And when I got back to the United States, I knew that I was in danger for what I knew, what I saw, because I was a witness to it, but I also had video, photographic evidence. I saw the maps, I saw the operations, I saw behind the curtain. And I didn't know what to do. So I sat down at my computer and I typed into Google, how do you report a war crime? How do you report a war crime? And the first link that came up was an organization called the Human Rights Watch. And I contacted them. They responded to me. And they coordinated for me to speak with members of Congress in DC. And that's what really started kind of the media attention, the media frenzy. In all of my media engagements at the time, from Tucker Carlson to Democracy Now, to all of the various platforms I was on, I didn't reach out to anyone. They reached out to me to hear this eyewitness testimony of an American who was in Gaza, where Israel or the Hasbara or the Zionists can't say, well, that's Hamas, or that's the Gaza Health Ministry, or you can't trust that person. It's an American soldier. served this country for 25 years as a Green Beret. America made me. And if they can't believe me, and I was there on the ground, who can you believe? So I realized at that point that I had to continue to speak on what I saw, because what I witnessed and what I brought home and what I shared with members of Congress, and this is important for all Americans to hear, was not a surprise to them. Senators, representatives, Democrats, Republicans, Black, white, Christian, Jew, Muslim, doesn't matter. Every member of Congress that I spoke to personally, not one of them responded with, "Oh my God." The response was, "We know. We know." And you had three different approaches. We know, and we're trying to do something about it. Your voice matters. Then you had those that said, "We know, it's complicated. It's not really a priority for my district, so I'm aware of it, but I don't really care." And then you have a group, "Oh, we know, we support it. Every Palestinian should be killed. I stand with Israel." Those are the three categories that I would put Congress in when it comes to the question of the genocide, what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank. And that motivated in me a desire to even push harder, because we cannot normalize what's happening in Gaza. We cannot normalize what's happening in the West Bank. We cannot normalize what's happening in the Congo or Sudan or the Western Sahara or to the Uyghurs in central China. We can't normalize it, because when we normalize it, imagine a world where aggressive, armed, militant government factions could just kill someone in the street without consequence. Imagine a world like that. Oh, we are in a world like that because we have normalized and we have accepted without consequence what is happening in front of our eyes in Gaza.
I remember telling people that Gaza's coming to you. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, Gaza was the test ground of how much they can get away with. How can they eliminate populations? What's the best technique of getting rid of people? Bombing them, shooting them, starving them, diseases? Which one is it? And now we're seeing it spreading in different parts of the world. But as we are here in the United States of America, it's knocking on the door, and now it has 1 foot inside the door by the assassination of Renee and the other gentleman,
Alex
which
Preddy.
which are American citizens. These are not illegal immigrants, whether criminal or not. These are American citizens born and raised in the United States of America and have lineage from the United States of America. That scares me as an immigrant that is not black or white, that has an accent. I'm a citizen, but what if I end up going to the wrong city? I'm driving my car and they stop me. You can't reason with these monsters. And then they pull me out, start beating me up, take me to God knows where, grape me, abuse me, punch me, kick me, maybe learn that I'm Palestinian, maybe they're undercover ITF or one of those infidel club, whatever it's called, and then they kill me or say that they found a bomb or I'm a terrorist or this or that. That to me is very scary. And I don't know what's going to happen, but based on my observation, I think we are very, very close to a civil war because it's a matter of time before American citizens will start shooting back. at these ICE thugs. I don't want that to happen because I know what will come. How can we stop this madness that is happening with ICE and the current government?
ICE should be abolished. Congress should be replaced. The president should be impeached, convicted, and removed. His secretary should be charged with war crimes and crimes against humanity, just like we did after World War II in the Nuremberg trials. They should be held accountable. What's happening in our streets is not an accident. It's not a coincidence. It's not the fault of the American people. I have video of this, and I'm going to post it later today. Some video has already been posted, but I'm posting it with commentary. Last night, outside of the hotel where ICE agents are staying, Americans lined up to protest the killing of a fellow American. Gunned down in the street in cold blood. Not a criminal, not an illegal immigrant, not a terrorist. Wasn't being assaultive or violent. Exercising his constitutional right to be present. Filming. A right. Carrying a weapon. Not brandishing it. Carrying it under the Second Amendment. A right. Murdered in cold blood for the world to see. And then the government had the audacity to lie to us and tell us, don't believe what you see, believe us. And Americans aren't buying it. But as we stood outside of that hotel last night, there was a large window, you know, in like in a hotel where, you know, if you're on, let's say you're on the 4th floor and all the doors come into the center in the long hallway. And usually at the end of those hallways, there's a really big window. So on the 4th floor of this hotel, at that really big window, these ICE agents crowded around that window and watched Americans protest. And do you think they reflected? And do you think they took remorse? And do you think they thought about their actions or thought about at least the situation and what's coming to be? They threw the middle finger. They held up beers in their hand and celebrated, pulled down their pants and mooned the crowd. These are federal agents of the United States paid for by our tax dollars who give the American people literally the middle finger, show them their butt, and drink. And remember, all of these ICE agents, while deployed, are on duty. Just like in the military, when you're deployed, you're always on duty. And here they are, drinking, celebrating, happy, looking down upon what they've done and what they've caused and what they've created. Without consequence, immune, impunity. And then scoff at Americans, give us the finger, show us their butt, celebrate. What happened to Alex Preddy, what happened to Renee Good, would have happened to others that have been beaten, clubbed, maced, and killed, is the worst of America. Punishing, violating, and killing the best of us. They're trying to villainize a man carrying a pistol and his Second Amendment right. Where are all the Second Amendment, don't tread on me, don't take my gun people? He wasn't breaking a law. Where are all the First Amendment people? Where are all the Fourth Amendment people? What we witnessed on the streets of Minneapolis at the intersection of Nicollet and 300 was an American who was summarily executed by firing squad, who was gunned down and killed in the street for simply being there, and an ICE agent that was irritated and had a bad day and killed that man. And we all saw it. What's worse as a nation, we're doing nothing about it. And what I fear and what I warn every American, regardless of where you live, because you think now that Greg Bovino has left Minneapolis and he's gone back to El Centro, and ICE agents are going to be tamped down a little bit and sent out of Minneapolis, they're coming to your city next. I don't care where you live. They're coming to your city next. And you have a choice. Just acquiesce and comply and do nothing. And there go our rights. And if you exercise your rights, you can be killed for it, blamed for it. And then the party will have you believe, don't believe what you see, believe what we tell you. And it's all lies. What I'm most afraid of is not what the government is doing. What I'm most afraid of is what we as the people are not doing. That's what scares me.
It's a very scary situation, and I feel like the right and the left are pointing at one another, because if we, the people, unite, then the government is done. But they want to keep us divided. And as you said, where are the people that support the Second Amendment rights? That I can bear arms. I mean, the Second Amendment was written for that kind of situation, when the government becomes tyrannical, right? And that's what ICE is becoming. It's behaving like a dictatorship. I do what I want. I'm outside the Constitution. I'm above the law. I could take you, beat you, kidnap you, harm your body, do whatever I want to do, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I can even shoot you, and the whole world is going to watch, and I'm just going to keep going on and make that money.
One of the most ignorant things that I hear is, oh, you want to abolish ICE? I guess you just support illegal immigration. Well, let me remind everyone, 22 and younger, who didn't know a world without ICE. ICE didn't become an agency until 2003, established under the Patriot Act as a counterterrorism integration force, of which we gutted the Immigration and Naturalization Services, the INS, to make ICE. Prior to 2003, the United States had a very responsible, robust, healthy immigration process, one of the best in the world. In fact, prior to the creation of ICE, the United States immigration policy from abroad and on both borders was seen as a refuge, a shining city on the hill. Now, we're the enemy. So for people that say abolishing ICE leaves us no choice, that's ignorant, that's garbage, and it's a lie. Because our immigration policies before the existence of ICE were responsible, and we had an agency. We had Border Patrol on the border, not in our streets. We had Immigration and Naturalization Services processing immigration, not victimizing and villainizing people in the process. So when people say that, it reveals their ignorance. Look it up. And I say abolish ICE, and I don't say that as some kind of hyperbole or rhetoric. The United States of America, through our constitutional process, even have a set of laws called the Sunset Laws, where we shut down agencies that no longer serve their purpose. In the last 20 years, we have shut down over 18 federal agencies, of which they no longer serve their purpose. ICE does not serve its purpose. It should cease to be funded. It should be disbanded and shut down. Period. There is no reform. It's unreformable. It should be abolished.
I agree. So what's next for you, Anthony?
I'm running for Congress. I'm running to be the congressional representative of North Carolina District 13. It's a good district. I live in that district. raised my family in that district. I care about the people in that district deeply. The current representative of our district is a Republican who takes AIPAC money, who has not signed on to or even acknowledged any of the House resolution legislation for blocking the bombs or allowing aid into Gaza. And that's not just a Gaza problem. Think about it. Every bomb that Israel drops on Gaza, every GBU or guided bomb unit 3828, 2,000 pound, 1,500 and 2,000 pound bombs fitted with the Mark 80 guidance kit. When that bomb drops off the back of that plane or on the bottom of that jet, between everything that goes behind it with fuel, logistics, armament, and the bomb itself, it's about 100 grand a pop. And Israel's had dropped over 1 million. So whenever you ask yourself, America, why we can't have universal health care, why we can't have a livable wage, why we can't have better schools and universal child care, that's why. Because we've dropped over $100 billion worth of bombs on a largely unarmed, starving population. That's why. So before anyone tells me that universal health care is unaffordable, not true. I could go earmark the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, right now and find billions in savings. But the reason our Congress won't cut those savings back to the American people is because the military-industrial complex will not allow it. That's the truth.
Wow. So tell the audience where they can find you and support you as well.
Aguilar for uscongress.com. If you go to that site, you'll see a page where you can donate, you can volunteer, you can help. My campaign is not money-driven. It is grassroots, people-powered. I want votes, not money. I will not take any money from any political action committee, definitely not from any super PAC, not APAC, no lobbyists, no military industrial complex companies or backing, none of it. It's a people-powered campaign, and I want to be beholden to the people. I don't come from legacy money. I don't come from legacy wealth. I have no stocks, no bonds. I do not trade in the stock market whatsoever. Penny stocks or billion-dollar stocks in the military industrial complex, none. I don't even have a Roth IRA that I participate in. I have nothing in the stocks, trades, and bonds. If I represent you in Congress, you can absolutely rest assured that every decision I make or every vote that I put in or every piece of legislation that I draft has no ulterior motive for what it's going to do for me. Because as I said before, what I have that a lot of people in Congress don't have, what I have that Donald Trump doesn't have, what I have that Pete Hegseth or Jared Kushner don't have is enough. I have enough. I don't need to take from the people or become astronomically rich to feel like I'm fulfilled in life. I want to represent the people. I want to put our freedoms and our Constitution back as the guiding path of our nation, not money and Zionism and colonialism. And it can be done. It absolutely can be done. This is not a pipe dream. This is a reality. We, the people, have to choose. Do we want to continue the path that we're on? Or do we want to take the fork in the road and make the right choice? Because if we continue down the wrong path for much longer, we won't have anything to fight back from.
I believe if nothing changes and people don't wake up, there will be no longer United States of America. We're already getting occupied by the Zionists. We're more divided than ever. It's more like the divided states of America. And soon every state is going to function separately, and each governor will become the president of each state. And then you will never know what's really going down, how things are ran, who's taking money, who's not. I mean, it can turn to chaos. America is a big, big country. And most people don't understand that the bigger they are, the harder they fall. I've been praying for this nation, praying for the people to unite against the enemy. And I pray for people to wake up because I feel like we don't have much time left. This has to stop. APAC needs to end. ICE needs to be abolished. We can't have these political parties because they are not serving the people, Democrat or Republican, two wings on the same dragon. We need something new. We need young people. And you got my vote, man. You got my vote.
What would help me worldwide and nationwide, regardless if you live in the North Carolina District 13 or I'm not asking for your money. I'm asking for your vote if you're in North Carolina 13. But on social media out there, for an example, TikTok is on its way down. I personally subscribe and have now subscribed to Upscrolled. Everybody should move to Upscrolled. Get it, follow it, use it. It's one option. But social media pressing up against the Hasra narrative, pressing up against the Zionist narrative, pushing back against lies with truth, that's how we're going to win. I want to make it very clear. I, Anthony Aguilar, do not advocate for violence. We don't need it. If 3.5% of our population were to take action in a unified way, we could make that change. That's a statistic that has held true throughout time. 3.5% of the US population and is only 11.5 to 12 million. It's not much at all. 12 million people stand in unity, general strike, stand up against the government in a peaceful way. We can overcome. It doesn't have to be violent. I do not advocate for violence. Violence begets violence, and violent revolution only leads to future suffering for everyone. We don't have to have violence. Vote. To the younger generation, 18 and up, vote. Your vote is not wasted. Don't believe the lie. Get out there and vote. Make your voice heard. Stand in unison. Find common ground. The killing of Alex Preddy, every single American, left, right, up, down, center, should condemn what happened to him. Every constitutional right was on display and murdered in the streets in front of us. That's what we should unite. There's plenty that divides us, but there's more that unites us. And we can change this country, and there doesn't have to be a shot fired or a drop of blood shed. We can do it through peaceful means, exercising our constitutional rights of voting, peacefully assembling, protesting, petitioning our government. It's our duty. Don't forget that.
I agree. United we stand, divided we fall. I want to thank you so much, Anthony, for joining us today. You dropped a lot of gems on us. And may the Lord keep protecting you and guiding you during these times. And you're a very brave man to be able to witness what you witnessed and come back here and blow the whistle. So kudos to you. And hopefully I'll have you again on this podcast, brother.
I would be honored. Much respect for your platform, for your knowledge and your wealth of knowledge. And, I think that the way that you explain things and the way that you present things in a very simple and factual way is important in today's world. So keep it up. Thank you for your voice and the energy you put into your platform. And anytime you want me back on, I would be honored.
Thank you so much. May the Lord keep on blessing you, brother.
Thank you.
See you later, man. All right, guys. There's a lot to learn from this episode. This guy's sharing his heart. He loves his country. He loves humanity. And he wants to see a better future, not just for this nation, but for the whole world. Vote for him if you live in the district. Support him. Until then, Christ is King, and always free Palestine.